Yo, what is going on everyone? It is Mapple here from the GankinZone team, back at it once again. We're currently nearing the end of Chapter 2 Remix. Throughout this month, we've seen return of iconic POIs and items, some with a bit of a twist. What we got wasn't the totally authentic Chapter 2 experience, but was Remix something that Fortnite really needed? And most importantly, was Remix a success or a failure? Let's talk about that and reflect on what Epic gave us during the season and compare it with the original Chapter 2 in Season OG as well. Now to begin with, let's not kid ourselves. Remix hasn't gotten the kind of player counts the original OG did. But I'll say it now, that isn't a big deal. Nobody should have ever expected it to do better than OG, and I touched on some of that in my last video, but to summarize, Chapter 2 just isn't OG. We all know this, but it's incredibly easy to look at any chapter or season in Fortnite's past with rose-tinted glasses once everything is over. I saw this firsthand with Chapters 3 and 4 when those ended. For one reason or another, there were many people in the community who had complaints about content within the game and where Fortnite was heading. But when both those chapters ended, I saw an almost immediate nostalgia for the previous chapter once a new one had started. This was a little more pronounced moving from 4 to 5, since there was a much bigger difference between those two compared to 3 and 4, but the point remains. And when we were promised a return to the Chapter 2 map, I think people were expecting a bit more than what we actually got. I believe it's down to a combination of people, especially more recently, believing that everything in Fortnite's past is better than what we have today, which I don't think is entirely true. But also it's simply been a long time since we've been on this map, so it's been easy to forget and overlook some of the challenges it initially had. That's not to say I dislike everything about Chapter 2, and in fact Chapter 2 Season 2 is my all-time favorite season in the game since I started playing. But also as someone who did play during that time, I remember having the same problems that I am during Remix. First off, the biggest problem is the overwhelming amount of bots in the game. They're everywhere, and it's basically impossible to escape them. You have to be playing in Ranked, in Diamond, or higher to play against all real players, but that's a rather high demand for the casual player base, who they appear to be prioritizing first. However, I don't think bots are helpful to even complete noobs. They're just too easy, and never get any more difficult. It's hard to actually grow your skill when fighting NPCs all around the map. They also have the problem just getting in your way. If you're fighting two bots and they damage you somewhat, you're now weaker and could die much faster if a real person spots you. But that's basically just a waste of your time. You weren't even fighting real players, so was taking any damage worth it at all? Doesn't that just make playing the game more inconvenient? While I will say Ranked, or the time it was called Arena, was a little better than how Ranked is today, the overwhelming amount of bots was definitely a problem in the original Chapter 2. So I can't blame Remix specifically for this, since to me, it's feeling like the authentic experience. The second problem is map size. You've all heard this one. The map is far too big, but up front I'll say this. It wouldn't feel so large if there wasn't the bot problem we just talked about. You see, bots don't behave like regular people do, and they're a lot more likely to aimlessly wander than actually be found at spots you might expect them to be at. Wilderness areas will always be fairly empty, but even if we just minimize the amount of bots in the game, you would find common hot drops are actually picking up in activity again. It just doesn't make any sense why I can land at Retail or Lazy Lake in the entire area as a ghost town. There should be an influx of real human players swarming those areas, causing a real fight to be had. But aside from the bots, the Chapter 2 map doesn't have as much to do in the in-between areas around key POIs. There's less to see, less to engage with, etc. There's just generally more open space. And what's funny is today's version of the map is actually easier to navigate because we have better movement mechanics, including sprinting with stamina and sliding. Without even being able to run, the map felt painful to get around back in the day before they added cars, with the exception of obviously using a helicopter to fly around. I also want to point out that in the original Chapter 2, there was no zero builds at the time, which means everything on the map from terrains and buildings are designed specifically for builds mode. This means that sometimes you're having a fight out in the open or in a tricky terrain that wouldn't usually make sense for a zero builds fight. With movement items, you can get around this pretty easily, but it basically means that you require good movement items every match, since you can be outpaced by someone if they do have those items and you don't. The next problem to address is the collaborative content. Now for Epic Games, collaborations are the entire focus of doing Remix in the first place. If you're the person who says that you just genuinely enjoyed the first 3 seasons of Chapter 2 and was disappointed to see that they tainted key POIs in collaboration with some rapper, then I'd understand that point of view. Considering Season 2 was my favorite season of all time, I wasn't sure how to think of it at first either. And I'll admit to this, I haven't played as much Remix as I either could have or initially thought I would have. I believe there wasn't a heavy focus on collaborations, and this was treated more like a second OG than I would be on the game probably every day. But even though I say all of this, you might be surprised to hear me say that it isn't negatively affecting my experience so much, only that it's keeping it back from me entirely enjoying it like I did with the original OG. And I keep it real with you guys, I actually stopped playing the game in Chapter 2, specifically Chapter 2 Season 4, which was the Marble season. I wasn't personally interested in anything that they brought into the game, but more so I was disappointed that they appeared to be veering away from introducing new characters that are unique to Fortnite and are instead using the lore and storyline of the game to promote a product, essentially making Fortnite one giant ad. And this wasn't just a thing in Season 4, there was legitimately dozens of collaborations across the entire chapter. But when they decided to go all in is when I decided to stop playing the game, and it also explains why in the present day, I don't enjoy collab heavy content within the game. But as for how it relates to Remix, I say that pushing these new collaborations with Snoop Dogg, Ice Spice, Eminem, it all just feels expected, and it's just another factor that makes this feel like the authentic Chapter 2 experience for me. Yes, obviously this isn't a true-to-life remake of what it exactly used to be, but from bots to the collaborations, this is precisely what I remember from my time playing in Chapter 2. I'm obviously not quitting the game during the season, and the reason for why I'm staying around this time is just because it feels refreshing to get away from what we were dealing with and experiencing in Chapter 5, which in my opinion was the most divisive chapter in Fortnite's history. From gutting the old movement system to implementing new and useless weapon attachments, bullet drop, a new modern graphical style, and so many other controversial changes, it was just seriously getting old. And in a way, Chapter 5 gave me a reason to truly love and enjoy Chapter 2 Remix, even if I do have a fair bit to say against it. And to some degree, it does feel good that Epic is allowing us to relive older chapters and seasons in modern Fortnite. It also feels good to experience key gameplay mechanics that make the game feel uniquely like Fortnite, and not such as every other useless third-person shooter that exists today. I hope that Epic Games can learn a thing or two from bringing these old chapters back. That players just love the game for what it was and enjoy it most when Fortnite is able to embrace what makes it unique and stand out from the rest. They need to figure out why people started playing this game in the first place, and maybe the lower player counts this time around will speak to them more. We don't need more collaborations. We don't need more useless item shop gear. We don't need more useless game modes and to push this game into a completely new direction where Fortnite is just an engine for other games to be made. We need Epic Games to look at all this and realize that we don't just want to be stuck in the past, and we don't want the past to be our only option. We just want back what made us love this game and to use those concepts in creating brand new, fresh content for the community to enjoy. Whether or not Remix actually indicates about anything how Chapter 6 will be, I can't really say, but I lean towards no. There have been some leaks around Chapter 6, but not everything is fully known right now, so I won't be speaking on it until it actually releases. But if Chapter 6 in any way will bring the game back to its roots, then I could foresee it being a really successful new chapter. At the end of the day, I've been playing and streaming a fair bit of this season, and I've been having fun. It takes a lot for me to not at least have a fair bit of fun in Fortnite, like something game-ruining bad. I'll always try to be fair when it comes to the pros and cons as it relates to anything within this game, because putting it simply, I just want the game to not only be the success that it is, but truly thrive and be a genuinely good experience instead of just a money printer for Tim Sweeney. So has Chapter 2 Remix been a success? If you're thinking about it from Epic's perspective, then it definitely was. They made a bunch of money off this, got a lot of publicity for the game, and made lucrative business deals with some influential people. If you're someone who actually plays the game, then it's more of a mixed bag. But I would say it's been a mild success. The season has achieved what it was going for mostly, and it was never presented as Chapter 2 OG, but Remix, and according to them as well, with a musical twist. So I can't even be brought to the point of saying our expectations weren't met, with the exception of the Prelude live event, which isn't actually worth considering it to be a live event since it was just a live stream within the game. Obviously that was incredibly disappointing and a bad first impression for the season. They also admittedly could have done a much better job with the battle pass for the season. I understand it's only half as big due to it only being available for a month, but I haven't seen a totally positive reception on the cosmetics, not to mention a lot of them are locked behind a 1400 V-Buck paywall in the new music pass, which to me just feels like a money grab. The final point I want to mention is the Juice WRLD tribute within the game. Regardless of how the gameplay might be or what my feelings are in collaborations with Ice Spice and whatnot, I have nothing but respect for the decision to immortalize Juice WRLD within Fortnite. Not only was he a huge fan of the game, but he always wanted to be in Fortnite. I wish this could have come sooner, but I'm glad it's happening regardless, and I really hope they hit it out of the park for at least Juice WRLD's portion of the finale live event. It's also amazing to see so many people using his skin. Not only is it cool that we got it for free, but it's just genuinely nice seeing the community pay their respects to him in such a way. Overall, I commend Epic Games for bringing back Chapter 2. I've been enjoying it, and I'm glad to see them willing to let us relive past nostalgia. I'd love to know what you guys have to say on this. What is your opinion with Chapter 2 Remix's success? Be sure to let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe and hit that like button. It really helps us out a lot. Until next time, stay safe everyone, take it easy, and peace out.